Hello, it's really lovely to be here with you at the moment to tell you another story on the series Prayers That Changed History. Andy and Carol had asked me, was there another character in history that I would like to talk about? And yes, there is. A lovely lady. So I would like you to hear it too. Through this lady's life and faith, she wrote many inspirational quotes to express her love about God through her blindness and deafness. One of these quotes are, "I believe that God is in me as the sun is in the colour and fragrance of a flower, the light in my darkness, the voice in my silence." One of the biblical verses she held on to was from Philippians 4, verse 13. "I can do all things through him who strengthens me." So this is Helen Keller's story. Helen was born on the 27th of June in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, America, and was the first of two daughters born to Arthur and Catherine Keller. Her family were not particularly wealthy and earned income from the cotton plantation. Helen was born with her senses of sight and hearing and started speaking when she was 6 months old. She started walking at the age of 1. It was when Helen was 19 months, through an illness thought to be scarlet fever, she lost her sight and hearing. So before she lost her sight and hearing, at those tender months, she could see all around her, and she could hear the voices of those people who came in contact with her. In childhood, she developed a limited method of communication with the cook's daughter, a type of sign language, and by the age of 7, they had invented more than 60 signs to communicate with each other. Helen's teacher, Anne Sullivan, from the Perkins Institute for the Blind in Boston, worked with Helen. During her young childhood and through to her adulthood, she was with Helen for 49 years as a teacher and companion. At first, when Helen was about 8 years old, Anne taught finger spelling. The first word was doll, and other words followed. For Anne, it was a drawn-out struggle, a dramatised struggle for Anne to try and keep Helen's concentration. So it was decided that she was to move and Anna to a cottage on the plantation. Then the breakthrough came. Anne pumped water from a pump onto Helen's hand. She could feel the water on her hand, and then she wrote the word water, WATER, on her hand. Now Helen understood, and by nightfall she had learnt 30 words. Anne also taught Helen to read and write in Braille. She was to accompany Helen throughout many years. Helen studied at schools for the deaf and graduated from Radcliffe College in 1904. Her accomplishments in overcoming her disabilities made her a celebrity at 12 years of age. She wrote many books on her personal experience as well as a volume of religion. Helen was introduced to Bishop Brooks, and they wrote letters to one another, for she had many questions about God and about prayer to know God better. She told the bishop, "I always knew God was there, but I didn't know his name." Bishop Brooks was the one who taught her about the unseen world. As Helen grew older, her prayer was that all people should know God. She felt this was her personal calling, and she prayed to succeed. So I'll show you a picture of Helen at this stage. There she is. I hope you can see her. She's using her sense of smell for the roses, and it was believed that she loved nature. She loved to be out in the garden. I would say she would be in her 20s there, late 20s. She accomplished, first of all, the deaf-blind person. She was the first one to earn a bachelor's degree. She published her famous autobiography and 12 other books, including a book called My Religion in 1927. And this book has remained in print ever since. Co-founded Helen Keller's International for the Blind in 1915, was a politician and campaigned and wrote in support for the working class, raised funds and was a leading member of American Foundation for the Blind, became a world-renowned speaker. Helen spoke for the rights of people with disabilities and also shared her faith and told of Jesus Christ, and so she displayed what God could do through the life of a person with a disability. She opened up schools for the deaf and blind, and she helped to make Braille the world standard in 1931. She was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 1964. She was also awarded medals in different countries that she went to. A stamp was issued featuring herself and her teacher and companion, Anne Sullivan. Her appearances around the world drew considerable attention to the plight of people with disabilities, leading to improvement in their conditions. Her story continues to be a source of inspiration to millions across the globe. On June the 1st, 1968, sadly Helen died in Connecticut at the age of 87. She died in her sleep of natural causes. As far as I know, she never married or had children, but I think she did have an admirer at one time. At this point, I would like to mention a few members of my own family. I would like to mention my mum. She was registered blind at a later time. She also loved being in the garden and close to nature. And she tried to do gardening when she was out. There was one song that she loved to sing or read the words from, and it was called The Garden. And the words were as follows: I came to the garden alone while the dew is still on the roses, and the voice I heard falling on my ear, the Son of God discloses. And he walks with me and he talks with me, and he tells me I am his own, and the joy we share as we tarry there, for me none other has ever known. He speaks, and the sound of his voice is so sweet, and the birds hush their singing, and the melody that he gives to me within my heart is ringing. My older sister Joan is registered partially sighted and helps out in, as she would call it, her blind club. She visits people who are elderly or ill, and she sits with them to chat. Her husband, Bob, and herself bring comfort and joy into the lives of many. Helen Keller had another quotation, which was, "Although the world is still full of suffering, it is also full of overcoming of it, with God's help." Many are with hearing and sight impairments out there and amongst our congregation. I am one of them. And I have this prayer that I love saying. It's a prayer of thanks to God for his help. And could I just share it with you too? Heavenly Father, whatever the impairment, thank you for giving us your strength. In disappointment, you give us patience. In uncertainty, you give us perseverance. In danger, you give us courage. In rejection, you give us determination. Thank you for bringing people into our lives to help. In this, you give us humility. Thank you for being always present in our hearts. So that's a wee prayer. And I just want to thank you for listening. I just love doing this and sharing with you. And next week it'll be, I think it's Carol, I'm not sure. But you will hear another character who, through their prayers, history was changed forever. I'll let you see Helen again. And through her impairments, she was totally blind and totally deaf. She did get her patience. She did get her strength. She did get her perseverance. She did get her courage. She did get her determination. And people came into her life and helped her throughout to achieve all. She did pray a faithful prayer, and she did change history by her prayers. So hope you have a lovely day, and all sorts of nice things happen to you. Bye for now.